everybody, at least on my side of the world.
It could be whatever time you want it to be.
Exactly.
But yeah, looks like we're getting right into it. You know, there's no chill here. We're just gonna go straight to it. This is all serious business here. So yeah, we're already up to a different start to this. We have 2 different rounds.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see runner's choice on which robot master to start with. Generally, one of 2 options with Pharaoh and Brightman. I guess the big differences between those 2 is, Pharaoh is about 6 seconds faster if everything goes according to plan, but it's also a little more difficult to do. So, this kind of depends on what you're looking for in your run, I guess, to get started here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Power First is definitely the epitome of risk versus the Brightman's a little bit safer. And immediately I saw right off the bat the first screen from greatjhon. Just he didn't worry about like getting hit by the little dragonfly at the top and getting sent to the bottom and missing the balloon, which would be over a 30-second loss. He just went for it. So it's a pretty interesting start for greatjhon, but I love it. I love the risk.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the advantages, I think, in races of taking Bright first, is that you'll have the flash stopper and can put that to good use and kind of at least minimize the danger of missing the balloon jump there. So Pharaoh first always a little riskier, but going for the reward of having your Pharaoh shot ready to go for Brightman stage.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially for like a lot of players who've like either they've chosen to learn the game for the tournament or they haven't really put a ton of time into the game prior to this tournament. So it's interesting to see like those players like doing Pharaoh first, because like for me, like with my experience playing the game, I didn't put like a ton of time into it, but like I did Pharaoh first, and whenever I would get hit by that dragonfly and sent down to the screen, you just reset. So like in this type of setting, it's like, you know, what do you do if like you just fall down? Like how much experience do they have? How much knowledge do they have to be able to do the rest of the run without the balloon?
Yeah, so we've got some dueling boss fights here. greatjhon, unfortunately, having to kill Pharaoh Man in the corner, which is a slower kill because the fanfare will not play until you are until all of the explosion sprites from the boss are off screen. So you ideally want to kill bosses as close to the center as possible, but sometimes Pharaoh Man just wants to sit in the corner and there's nothing you can do about that. So, but you see that both are through their first stage, and now it's just going to be reversed. Flip it, reverse it. We're going to see Resistingframe get to use the flash stopper in Pharaoh Man stage. We'll be able to compare how that makes these first 2 screens a little easier to do for sure. Instead of having to mash through, this is all just slide and nothing to worry about.
Yeah, this is basically the primary reason why Bright First is so much safer than taking the Power First route, because you don't have to worry about anything in these first 2 screens. It's just all free fall, and just make sure you jump over that pit. That's it.
Now you're one of the features of the flash stopper that we can talk about a little bit, I guess, is that it lasts for 4 or 5 seconds, but the timer doesn't decrease while you're sliding. So if you have very good movement and able to chain your slides together, you can basically keep a single charge of flash stopper for entire rooms. And that's actually what you see what you'd see in the first stage there, that RF was chaining his slides together in such a way so that he only needed to use 1 charge of flash stopper, where if you were walking that whole way, you'd have to burn multiple charges.
Yep, and that'll definitely become a little bit more apparent in the later stages of the robots. A little bit, let's take a little second to talk about the tail of the tape, see how these competitors stack up. So Resistingframe is the number 2 seed in the tournament. He has a 40-54 as his PB. And we have greatjhon in the number 6 seed, who incidentally beat the number 3 seed last round to get into the semifinals. So he has a 41-20. So they're pretty close to each other. So I expect a pretty tight match throughout.
Oh, for sure. There's enough luck and RNG in this game to swing, even if everything else is done perfectly. Definitely, there's enough that can even these two up, no problem. So we can see on with greatjhon, he's using the Pharaoh charge, and he's taking advantage of a property there where when it's charged, you have the shot above Mega Man's head, and that can be used to hit an enemy, but you still retain that charge, so you can fire 2 fully charged shots in rapid succession, basically. And that's the big time save for Pharaoh first versus Bright first, is that fight against Brightman can be finished much faster with those double charges.
Yep, and you're gonna see a little bit more of that when we get to the ring boss. But for now, let's take care of the ring stage first before we get there. And it's a very... Oh, I see greatjhon is doing a little bit of a different strat here, opting for Flash Stopper instead of the balloon, which is the more common strat.
Definitely the safer strat, and certainly the one that the big advantage to using Flash Stopper here, I would argue, is that you're going to definitely save yourself damage. And this stage, when done well, you're going to take a lot of damage. You see RF just smashed his head into a hippopotamus. We're going to see greatjhon do the same here in a second, and that takes damage. There are multiple mini bosses in this stage, so this is an opportunity to save life for the last boss.
Yeah, I definitely respect it, because, if you do the stage perfectly and you take all the damage boosts, unfortunately, greatjhon there did not do the D boost to kill the mini boss there properly, but was able to kill it and the follow up. But yeah, if you do everything properly and you take all the damage boosts you're supposed to, you could have as little as 2 health going to the boss. So it is definitely a very scary thing, especially when bosses do 8 damage to you on contact for the most part. So yeah, health is very key here, and it looks like both runners are opting to take a couple of safety strats here to make sure they have extra health, which in a race like this, I definitely respect.
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, Ringman is, he does 8 damage. Oh, greatjhon dealing with the. So these platforms in this stage, there's 2 different kinds. The rainbow ones, they open to the right, and the rings platforms, they'll open to the left. So he unfortunately ran into a just getting caught.
Yep, it's a tricky section that greatjhon is on, that he has died twice too, because if you're just a little bit too slow, you won't be able to get through those those closing beams there. So yeah, not the worst thing in the world, because he's dying on the screen that the checkpoint is, but still unfortunate. And Resistingframe on the left, he was going for the Pharaoh kill and ran out of Pharaoh, so he had to kind of add a little bit at the end, especially with his low health, but he was able to do so he is moving on.
Very, very good reaction there. I think what happened with Resistingframe was he got a partial charge hit on Ringman there instead of multiple full charges. It's a little unfortunate. But here's an opportunity to see the power of the Flash Stopper. Is as long as you're sliding, you're not taking time. So he's gonna try to use this. This is called the lag room, called because this room is very laggy. You can see just how slow Mega Man moves on this screen because of the moving platforms and these ladybug enemies. It's a rough room.
Yeah, I'd say Dust in general, the stage is one of the harder stages in this game to run. I know it always tripped me up when I was doing attempts of this game, but it's super fun when you get it right, especially this Crusher section right here. Resistingframe trying to go for the fastest cycle, wasn't able to get it, but that's okay. He's going to be able to get under for the second cycle, so he's going to play a little safe here. Take the third cycle, that's alright.
Yeah, it had a little bit of trouble at the very beginning of the Crusher, and that kind of set him back far enough that wasn't able to make up enough time to get through the first cycle. But as long as you survive the Crusher, that's really the key. Is don't get crushed by it, and you're going to be okay.
Yep. So yeah, as Resistingframe is going to Dustman, his health is pretty good, which is going to be great, because if Dustman does not cooperate and does the suck, you just sit there for a while if you don't have enough health like that, or you get up to damage boost. Looks like he's not going to, which is totally reasonable because by taking contact damage, again, you're going to be taking 8 each hit, so he could afford to take maybe 1 there, so opting to play a little bit safe just in case he gets like an accidental hit there.
Yeah, definitely worth the little bit of safety there. I don't know if he's watching John's run or not, but you know that's something that you know if he sees he's a little bit ahead in that you know maybe it's like, okay, you know what, let's not take the risk. That's always a viable strategy too, is to just playing it safe is never a bad idea in a race setting, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, especially like for these runners, which, of course, they're of course talented runners, but they may like, you know, may not have like the experience of like somebody who has like, you know, like a very good time, like a 37 or 36. You know, if you're approaching that sort of level, you obviously have a lot of experience in this game. You know, like what to expect and how to react to it. Whereas, you know, when you don't have that time, you just may not have put like a lot of time into the game, and it just may be one of those things where you're not really comfortable, so you'd rather play it safe, which is totally reasonable.
100%. We saw greatjhon actually did take a few damage boosts against Dustman, and you can see the difference as to how much time you can save, but at the cost of 8 HP every time you have to do it. So it's definitely a risk versus reward scenario. Is you know, how comfortable are you taking damage intentionally, and how comfortable are you if you're not sure that you might take some unintentional damage.
Yep. So Resistingframe was able to get the zip. The one zip that people do in the RTA setting. Let's see if greatjhon is able to get it. The tricky thing about zipping in this game is if you're just stuck in a wall and like after a few seconds nothing happens, you just die because the game doesn't like you. They don't want you to be in walls. But if you do take damage and you're in iframes, they don't. I guess like they're just like, all right, well, we gotta send you out, so let's send you out. So that's like basically the one instance in an RTA setting where you can actually use it.
Yeah, there's a second zip that you can do in the Dust Crusher, but it doesn't save time, so it's generally not used. But that's the only. Those are the only two that are viable that I'm aware of as of now.
Yeah.
Let's see. greatjhon is into this section here with the flash stopper, and this is another room where you can kind of get a grasp for the movement based on how many times they have to use flash. Is that if he only goes through this room needing to use one flash charge, that means that his movement was pretty good, and then you know, so that's kind of a good way to measure some quality of movement, is how long a single charge can last on individual screens.
Yep. So as we get into Dive Man, one interesting quirk about the water in this game is you can't actually jump out of a slide while you're in water. So as a result, you're gonna see them, you know, take some what seems like slow like walking, or like, you know, they may not be sliding all the way to the edge, and that's because they can't without like some really good slide canceling. So you know, just have to be a little bit careful here because you can be a little bit off. Just like do one too many slides, or just not press the slide button in water, and you're kind of screwed. So just gotta be careful.
This is one place where Resistingframe definitely has quite a bit of experience. He's a very seasoned Mega Man 6 runner, and Mega Man 6 doesn't let you jump out of any slide. So this is old hat for him. This probably is pretty comfortable, honestly.
Yeah, it's true. But I haven't seen any slide cancels from him.
No.
A little bit disappointed, you know.
Hey, you'd think you have the experience, might as well use it, right? A little bit of a one right there, right before the wire pit.
That's right. Yeah, that pit isn't actually a pit that kills you. It is a pit that takes you to get the wire. Nobody really wants that because you can't really use it in the run, in an arcade setting at least. So you just lose 30 plus seconds going down there. Nobody wants to do that. Alright, so we get to Dive Man here. So yeah, weakness is Skull Shield. It's pretty simple. Just use the barrier, run into it, we're good. And Resistingframe is going to try to get a trick here. Let's see if he can get it. A little bit early there, so wasn't able to get it. So there's two things that he was trying to do there. So as you can see, there's in each robot stage, when you kill the Robot Master, there's a center pixel you can be on. Being in that center pixel allows Mega Man to go straight up into the weapon get, rather than like jumping up and then jumping down to get the weapon get energy. But in two stages, Pharaoh Man and Dive Man, if you are able to jump at the appropriate time and be in the right position at the right time, the little weapon get energy bubbles come early, and you never go through that cutscene otherwise. So it's basically a couple second time saver if you're able to get it.
Yeah, I think that all told, in each of the 8 Robot Master stages, if you get the correct pixel and the horizontal jump in Pharaoh and Dive, I think that all told it saves something like 10 seconds. So it's not a huge time save necessarily, but I mean you can save a bit of time. Each one's worth somewhere between a half and a full second.
Yep. So we're going to the Joel Man, and this is, I would say, the most important stage for making sure your slides are on point here. To get as much flash stopper usage as possible, especially in the last screen, which will be coming up on Resistingframe's end. It's a little bit tricky here on this screen because if you're, a little bit off on your slide timings, your flash stopper might end a little bit early, and it might end at the wrong time, and you end up falling into a pit as a result. So let's see how he does here.
Yeah, this is one of those screens that definitely tells you how good someone's slide chaining is, but also it gives you an idea for just how powerful the flash stopper is. That room is very difficult to deal with without the flash stopper, but with the flash stopper, it's relatively trivial. It's just some good sliding, and you don't have to deal with anything. But there's falling rocks. It's a mess.
Yeah, so Resistingframe was a little bit slow there, so wasn't quite able to get to the final jump without a second one. Let's see how Drillman does. Well, Drill did a dive. And there you go. Resistingframe just lost 4 seconds. Good video game.
Yeah, Drillman, the major factor with Drillman here is that he'll occasionally decide to dive down or dig, and he can just take 4 seconds anytime he wants. The closer you are to him, the less likely he is to dive, but he still can elect to dive and just make you give up 4 seconds anytime.
Yeah, a little bit of a concern on greatjhon's end. He's out of flash stopper, and he is gotta be a little bit careful here. So it looks like he's all right. We're through. It's fine, no problem.
I was worried there for a second. I was afraid he was going to get sniped by one of those shots as he was jumping across that last pit.
Alright, so now Resistingframe is coming into Toadman's stage. Toadman's a little bit of a difficult stage, with the water kind of halting your momentum in a lot of ways. It can be very tricky. Just being a little bit off on your jumps here can spell doom, especially not only in this screen, but the second screen as well.
Yeah, this screen here that Resistingframe is on is one of the scarier ones, I think. Basically, that as Mega Man slides, if his legs touch any of the water that's coming down from a different platform, Mega Man won't be able to jump. It's about how the game handles what is considered foreground and background tiles. But long story short is basically that water messes with Mega Man's ability to jump out of slides, and so you can just slide right off a platform when you don't mean to. So that he's through, and it's good because those screens are very very scary for sure.
Yeah, good stage from Resistingframe. Was able to get through with little issue, and now his reward is the easiest boss on Classic Mega Man.
Yeah, for casual playthrough, this is a great boss to just have as is who you start with. The stage is difficult for sure, but if you can get to the boss, that's it. That's all there is to it. Just always be shooting him, and you won't have any problems.
There you go. See, greatjhon was able to get through the first screen just fine. Let's see how he does on the second screen here.
and he's aware that you know, there's these waterfalls can really play havoc. So he's definitely taking it a little cautious there, and I think that's the right call. A death there is pretty punishing. So
yeah, not only
better to play that room.
Yeah,
very safe.
Not only does it set you back significantly, but it also means you're low on Flash Stopper, so you won't be able to use it as much as you normally would throughout the stage. Like, look at it right now on greatjhon's screen. He's using his entire Flash Stopper bar right here. So just, you know, death means you don't have enough, so you have to kind of play the stage a lot differently.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that the Flash Stopper is used in Toadman Stage 2 twice, effectively skip mini bosses. So if you're short on it and you have to fight one of the snail mini bosses, it's a significant time loss. In addition to a death, but then now you have to play a very suboptimal route. So, but Drill makes quick work of Toad, and both of our runners are onto the Cossack Castle.
Yeah, and start off with a doozy. Cossack won. It's very just like consistently. Just as I was saying that, you know, I was about to talk about the difficulty of the stage, and as I say that, Resistingframe takes a death. But the good thing is where he died is like one of the safest places. You know, like one of the most forgiving places to die. You know, he starts literally like 2 seconds back.
Yeah, I think it is very likely the least punishing death that you can take in the castles. I believe the up and downs just. If you hold on to your slide a little too long or cut one of those jumps just a hair too short, they will come up and bring you down, and that's what they do. So
yeah, the tricky thing about the Cossack stages and the Wily stages is there are no boss door checkpoints. So if he were to die here in this boss, he doesn't get sent back to this, you know, little section over here. No, he goes all the way back to where you saw when he died. So he is losing a ton of time if you were to have a boss death, or in any of the Wily or Cossack stages, not just this one.
Yeah. Let's see. We have Mothrai. This fight is difficult mostly because this is the intersection of two very small hitboxes. The ring boomerang is only about a single pixel, and the hitbox for Mothraya's like weak point is also not very large, so it's tough to get those two to line up. RF manages to get out of there. I want to point out something that greatjhon did that I thought was very clever. Was he used Bright Stopper for the Skeleton Joe room to avoid dealing with the up and downs coming up to get him. They just stayed where they were underneath. They didn't come up to get him.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, weapon ammo management is very key in Mega Man 4 throughout the Cossack and Wily stages, since you don't get refills from stage to stage. But one thing that you have plenty of is Flash Stopper ammo, so it's cool to see greatjhon kind of integrating, you know, usages of that in these stages.
Yeah, it's very interesting is that during the 8 robots, you use Flash Stopper in quite a few stages, but once you get to the Cossack and once you get to the castle stages, you really don't use them at all, or use Flash at all. So, you know, you have plenty of ammo to put it to good use if you're trying to save health in different rooms, things like that. It's definitely something to consider, you know, for a no reset run like this.
Ooh, Resistingframe took an unintentional hit there, so he wanted to save some health there for Square Machine. So that was really cool, doing that little slide there, and he gets rewarded with a small health. That actually is a pretty nice thing for him to have there. It might enable him to take an extra hit if he does happen to take an extra hit here, so that is good for him. And let's see how forgiving Square Machine's going to be.
See, Square Machine can give you a 3, a 2, or a 1 pass, and this is the first one here is a 2 pass. And we like to call it Square Machine because it actually has 8 sides. I just like to point that out every time we see it, just because it really makes me crazy.
I respect it. But yeah, it looks like Resistingframe did the balloon strats throughout the Cossack 2 stage. Well, it looks like greatjhon is opting to do the rush jet strats. A little bit slower than the balloon strats, but they're most certainly safer. And that seems to be a very common theme for greatjhon, is he's all about consistency, it seems, which I totally respect.
Yeah, in a no reset situation in a race, you want to stick with what's consistent and what's reliable. And one of the things that I'm seeing here is that John is going into all of these fights. He's got health, and he's got ammunition, and so he's always in a good place to be fighting every boss. So it's it definitely the decisions made for these for this run is focus on being ready, armed to the teeth, and ready to go for the bosses. And I think it's not a bad idea for sure.
Alright, well, it looks like greatjhon starts off with a 3 pass. Certainly not ideal, but that's alright. He's gonna get a 1 pass the next one, don't worry.
Yeah, for the purposes of saving time, the 2 pass and the 3 pass aren't really that much different because of how fast the third pass of the square machine is. So what you're really hoping for is at least one pass. That's where you can really save time.
Well, looks like you got 33, so, Square machine giveth, and our square machine taketh away, mostly on the taketh away side.
And now both of our runners are into the to Cossack 3, which is a nice, easy auto-scroller that has killed plenty of people over the years because they're like, oh, it's a chance to take a breather. And that's when it gets you. So, fingers crossed for everybody.
It's true. Incidentally, although the boss isn't terribly difficult, dying in this boss is, probably the most punishing death in the run, simply because you have to go through an auto-scroller again if you do die, so nobody wants to die there.
Yeah, I think it's about 1:30 if I can remember my my misadventures against the twin cockroaches. I believe it's about a 90-second punishment. RF doing one of my favorite little strats in this game, which is jumping on that platform until it basically despawns itself off the top, and using that to get into the next, get into the boss corridor. Big fan of that one. I think it's neat.
Yep. So coming into the twin cockroach, we're going to be using the Pharaoh here. It's a fairly set pattern. There's a little bit of a difference in terms of what he does the shot there. Looks like, unfortunately, Resistingframe missed the double shot that he was going for, and also missed another shot here. So kind of got a little bit out of pattern there, but it's alright. He was able to take him down, no problem. His Pharaoh ammo is a bit of a concern, but I imagine he's going to be getting a safety refill at some point, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal.
Yeah, I think I'm actually very confused as to how RF missed his double shot. It looked good to me.
Yeah.
It looked like every one I've ever done, and it seems like the bottom cockroach just decided to not take damage.
Yeah, I don't know. I have not seen that before. I would guess maybe he was just a little bit too far to the left. I don't know. It was very strange.
just the smallest amount, but he takes advantage of these big refills here and refills his Pharaoh right now, which is definitely the right decision to make there. You're a little low after that fight not going quite right, so you want to make sure you have enough Pharaoh. It's very important in the late game to have enough Pharaoh for all of the final bosses. And grabs a safety E-tank on top of that, which it doesn't take very long to do, but it's always nice to have that little bit of the warm blanket of the E-tank in your back pocket, knowing that you have that if you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when you have just a couple seconds of time loss, if that, to get that E-tank, it's totally worth it in this type of race scenario. I would definitely recommend it for a lot of runners to get that. Heck, if I was in the tournament, I'd do it.
So this is the Cossack catcher, and this has some interesting features about how it works, is that as long as you're sliding, a slide will interrupt the Cossack catcher's movement. So if it's moving up or down or left or right and you slide, it will cancel that movement and then stay in place. So the way that you want to try to manipulate the Cossack catcher is to get him over to the right there, and then slide and kind of hold him in place so that you can slide, jump, and then land where you have this little cutscene here.
Wow, Resistingframe playing on the English version. You know, we get the hot lore. I like it.
Yeah, I think there's a very minor difference between the U.S. and Japanese versions. One of the more important difference from a gameplay perspective is that Cossack catcher will not move immediately on the U.S. version. He does move immediately on the J version, but that's really it. There's almost no difference otherwise. It's a few frames difference between the two, and that's the only gameplay impact too. So either version's fine, is what I'm saying.
That's all right. So it looks like it was Wily all along. Spoilers. And now we're in the Wily stages, and we are on Wily 1, which is a Met themed stage. Pretty much every enemy except one is a Met, which is pretty cool. It's a unique thing, I would think, in classic Mega Man stages, and also it's just a very cool stage. There's a lot of subtleties and good movement that's needed in order to play the stage fast.
This stage is definitely one that is tough to get a handle on, but once you get the movement down, it feels very good. There's some underwater movement here, so your sliding is limited a little bit. And your jumping is overpowered because you're underwater, but you can have really good movement here. We use Rush Jet in this sequence to deal with to basically skip over these Yoku block sections. We don't want to deal with those, and Rush Jet lets us skip over them. And before I forget, because of this stage, I just want to say, let's go Mets.
There you go. I can't say it, but it's okay. Nah, it's cool. I respect any Met fan.
So now we get Metal Daddy. This is definitely one of the meaner bosses, I think, in Mega Man 4. He's weak to ring, sort of. He takes 2 damage from every ring shot. Does 8 damage on contact to you, and when he jumps, he'll bring down baby Mets. It's a tough fight, and if you're on the ground when he lands, you get stuck in place, and oh
boy! The plot twist. I didn't expect that one.
Oh man, when he got hit, I thought that was it. Oh wow.
Yeah, that would have been disastrous. He would have, in the screen that greatjhon is in right now, that's the checkpoint. So just like that, he would have been behind if he were to die there. So close one.
That was a little much. Too many of those. It's a little too late for that for me. I can't. I can only have 1 or 2 of those a night.
Well, hopefully this is the last one. All right, we don't need to see that. Alright, so we're going into Wily 2 now. Fairly, I wouldn't say the easiest stage, of course not, but it's not one of the more difficult stages. It's fairly straightforward for the most part up until the boss. You're going to be using a lot of Rush Jet throughout the stage, pretty much up until we get to the last screen. So it really just comes down to, making sure you're not taking any silly damage and just getting through as fast as possible.
Yeah, a lot of this stage is just about knowing where to call Rush so that you can mash the enemies down while Rush is on screen, or minimizing just how much Rush is on screen at all. Making sure that you don't spawn him in a place that he can't land if you need to jump on him, or spawning him in a wall so that he never shows up at all in rooms where you don't want him. So we see RF doing quite a bit of that.
And then we get to this last screen here. Looks like he is going to be switching to Toad here, doing the single block slides. Oh, no slides, just single block jumps. That's okay. Some runners opt to use Jet there. But we are switching to Rainflush here because while it's not the weakness, we're going to skip a health refill right here. Look at that. Wasn't that cool? I think it's cool. And then Resistingframe is using the drill here, so that's also not his weakness. By the way, this boss is named Taco Trash. Good name. So by using the drill here, we actually like cancel out his hitbox, and you could just go right into him and just start using the ring. It's pretty nice and convenient.
Yeah, it makes that fight pretty trivial, and the only cost is a single shot of drill and a menu. Which, you know, the menu so it costs maybe about 1.5 to 2 seconds, but it's definitely worth it if you get into that fight and you're concerned about trying to do that fight with the randomness of it shooting at you. Just waste the drill, take the menu, and it's basically becomes free every time.
Mm-hmm. And now Resistingframe coming into the refights, making sure to refill his ring and dust, because I've noticed that ring and dust have been used a little bit throughout the Wily and Cossack stages, and we're gonna need them for multiple fights in the refights. So yeah, ring and dust is two of the most important ammos to make sure you're conserving properly heading into the refights, because of the fact that you just need so much of it. It's very interesting. Like, the majority of the Wily and Cossack bosses are actually weak to ring and dust. You just don't use it for all of them because you just simply don't have enough ammo.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then on top of that, dust is a soft pardon, it's a soft weakness from multiple bosses. So like Pharaoh here, he takes 2 damage from every shot of dust. And this is actually faster to fight him than to charge up the Buster or to use his weakness, which is Flash Stopper, which is a tremendously slow way to kill Pharaoh Man. So we use dust.
Yeah, he's got plenty of dust ammo coming into his skull here. And we didn't talk about it earlier, but the skull pattern is entirely predictable because you're the one that controls it. The only thing that isn't predictable is that shield, which Resistingframe got one of the slowest shields, which is unfortunate. But yeah, the entire skull fight is determined by what you do. If you sit there doing nothing, he sits there doing nothing. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, you can just have the ultimate stare down for as long as you want with Skullman as soon as you walk into a fight with him. So Resistingframe here using the Skull Shield against Dive. Fun fact, Dust is also the soft weakness for Dive Man. So if you ever need to for some reason, Dust does 3 damage to Dive Man. I didn't realize that until recently, and I thought that was interesting. Dust is a pretty useful utility weapon, it seems.
Oh, unfortunately, Resistingframe used a... Okay, we're going into Flash Stopper now? So what happened is Resistingframe was trying to use Skull Shield there to hit him 5 times. And the reason why is because you want to get him off a certain health pattern because of this. So now Resistingframe is a little bit of a sketchy situation, but he's the E-Tank here. So yeah, when Brightman's at 16, 8, and 4 health, he automatically flashes the screen. You can't do anything. So if you use his weakness, the Rain Flush, you would get to that 16, 8, and 4 like you're seeing right now. He gets 2 flashes, so that's why you use the Skull Shield to get him on that off pattern. But unfortunately, because he missed his last Skull Shield, he wasn't able to, so he just kind of had to deal with it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Like that whole sequence is difficult if you mess up one of the shots. But he had some Rain Flush left over, which is nice because it lets him hit Drillman here at the beginning when he goes to dive into the dirt, which is great because the dive missile only does 3 damage. So if you hit him with every shot, he actually has 1 HP left. So that does that 1 extra HP, and it might be the difference between saving 4 seconds and not given that Drillman likes to dive so much.
Yeah, so you see on greatjhon's screen right now, he got the 5 hits in, so as a result, he doesn't have to deal with any flashes. And that honestly saved him a bunch of time, so he's getting closer. I mean, it's still like Resistingframe has a nice, comfortable lead, but any wrong mistake at this point, any death at this point is going to be the difference maker, so...
Oh, for sure.
Resistingframe has to make sure he's careful.
And on top of that, we have Ringman, or Dustman coming up, who's weak to Ring. And this can be a major turning point here too, because if Dust decides to suck, that can take away some of RF's health and make things difficult. And wow, What a bro.
Very nice. Yeah, it's especially important that he doesn't suck there too much because you need to have enough health going into this fight. So yeah, very fortunate for Resistingframe because this fight is not a cakewalk. It has 2 phases to it, so you can definitely take a lot of damage here. And he's going to be switching to a drill at the end here a little bit early, and if he does it right, he'll be able to cancel the... Oh, looks like he didn't cancel the health there, opted to just kill it with ring. So, you know, losing a little bit of time there, but that's alright.
So what you're doing here in this second phase of the fight is when you fire a drill bomb, if you hit B again, it will detonate the bomb. So if you just fire it, the hitbox for Wily's machine is actually too high. It'll just bounce off. So you have to blow it up when it's next to the hitbox to take care of the machine right there. So greatjhon unfortunately getting one dust suck IC and making short work of him otherwise, and on to his fight with the Wily machine.
Alright, so as Resistingframe is coming to the last stage, the Wily Capsule fight, this is the reason why we need Pharaoh ammo, is because Pharaoh is Wily Capsule's weakness, and if you're not able to kill him with your Pharaoh ammo and you run out, the only other weakness that we have, or rather the only other thing we have that will do damage is ring, and we do not have a lot of ring. It'll do like 1 damage. We don't have a lot of ring left, so it's very imperative that you have enough Pharaoh ammo here, so that way, like, you know, you can afford a few mistakes here and there.
In an ideal world, you'd be able to get a double hits here. You see CRF is standing towards the center of the screen. He's trying to jump into the capsule as it spawns. You hit him with your first shot, and then you can hit him with the second one if your timing's good. Getting a little tight here on ammunition.
Should be fine here. There we go.
There it
GG to Resistingframe. 41-33. It was a little bit close on the ammo there, but he was able to come through. He knew the safety strat, which is if you basically pause and unpause and hold the B button as you're charging the Pharaoh shot, and if you let it hit Wily, it doesn't use any refill as long as you don't fire that shot again. So what you can do is you can basically... Yeah, I like the things there. So basically, you can pause and unpause, charge it, let it hit, pause again and unpause and recharge it again, and you don't use any ammo that way.
I see greatjhon here ready to deal with his fight here against Wily. It's a little tight, but he's got some E-tanks in his back pocket. Always nice to have the juice box if you need it. So. Back to full health and ready to rock and roll. And one more hit should do it for Wily. And there it is. GG's.
GG to greatjhon, 42-37. So about a minute difference between the two competitors. Pretty solid, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know, that's pretty close for a 40-minute game. You know, to be within a minute is that's close.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very competitive.
So with that, Resistingframe will be moving on to the finals. So congratulations to him. He is awaiting the winner of the Venez Prince versus Waiter 1602 match. So that will be the other semifinals, which will be happening Thursday at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And yeah, the third place match will be happening as well. So greatjhon is not eliminated at this point. He still has third place to play for. So whoever is the loser between the Venez Prince and the Waiter match, he will be playing that person. And if you want more Mega Man 4 action, in addition to the Kalinka Cup, we have the Cossack Cup going on. So the Cossack Cup is the top 32 of the runners that came out of the heats. And we have the semifinals that are coming up, so just a few hours, really not too far from here. At 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow, we have Casio 3rd versus Prissy. And then Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we have Sage Hero versus Not Riley 4. So that will be I'm sorry, those are the quarterfinals to make up the semifinals, excuse me. So those are the last 2 quarterfinals of the Cossack Cup before they get into the semifinals. So if you want more Mega Man 4 tournament action, definitely check those out.
Yeah, those are all hot races coming up for sure. Prizzy and Casio have raced previously at GDQs in Mega Man 3, so we'll get to see them do some Mega Man 4 action. And Riley and Sage Hero were competitors against each other in the most recent Mega Man 4 through 6 relay at GDQ. So they're familiar with racing against one another. This will be it'll be cool to see both of those races. And again, Wader and Vanessa Prince are coming up on Thursday, and those are both great Mega Man 4 runners. Definitely looking forward to that one. To try to get our Kalinka Cup final and third place matches finalized.
That's right. But for tonight, that is going to be it. So thank you very much for watching the Mega Man 4 tournament action with the Kalinka Cup. It was Darkman78 and my co-commentator here, Mad Mega. You can sign off as well.
Yes. Thanks for watching. Good GG to both of our runners, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight.